All right, y'all. Peace, 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 peace. Now rocking with your brother, A1, aka Thompson's One, aka Hano Kiel. Peace of gods, peace of goddesses, peace of aborigines, autochtons, north, south, central, and the conjoining islands. Okay, all right. I got two things I'm trying to really build on today. Just give me a second. Let me just try to get everything set up. I didn't play no music because they keep strike every time I somehow play music, they strike my channel. And I gotta go back and edit it, so I'm not gonna be playing music until I find, some songs where people don't strike me. But how it go, man? Shout out to everybody. I'm just trying to get some things together real quick. Hold up. All right, just bear with me. Hey, look, whoever in the comments, man, if y'all let me know if y'all can hear me, because I'm on a headset. So if you guys can't hear me clear, let me know if you can hear me. Um, yeah, let me know if you guys can hear me. Just press one for me if you can hear me. Press two for me if it sounds statically, or if it's clear, or if it's not clear. Just press one, yeah, two, no. Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm clear. I'm clear. Y'all guys can hear me without any static. Okay, all right, okay, all right, no problem. All right, so I got two things I'm gonna be building on, right? I'm gonna be showing you old world Newark, right? This is something I've been wanting to show for a minute, right? It just shows the old structures that was in Newark, New Jersey, where I grew up at and where I'm actually from, right? And another thing, like I said, I got a pay-per-view coming up on um on 2/22, which is February 22nd. That's a Sunday. It's going to be at 4 Eastern, okay? The name of the pay-per-view is Before 1492, America Was a Negro Continent. So like I said, I spoke on this Sunday. So tickets gonna go on sale tomorrow. Everything is a go. I'm gonna do it live. So you guys ain't gotta worry about it. Um, but I got one thing. I'm at least trying to get at least 25 people. You know what I'm saying? For me to do the build. So definitely I appreciate everybody, what I'm saying, who can afford to get a ticket or whatever. But if you don't catch it the first time, I'll probably do it probably about another month or two on my live channel. But I put a lot into this PowerPoint. Like I said, I got over 400 slides on it. And some of the stuff you've seen before, some of the stuff you haven't seen, but it's pretty much condensed. It's condensed into one PowerPoint. Everything you got. I don't want to say. You got anthropology, archaeology. You got book sources, as well as real life testimonies from different tribes throughout the America, and also some cross referencing and analytical thinking, right? As far as showing us how we were already here, and all of the evidence and all of the monuments and all of the different artifacts and images. So I'm condensing it all in one. I know I've done 100 bills on this, and other people done 100 bills on it, but I don't think they condensed everything in one bill. So I condensed everything in one bill. Like I said, it's a super heavyweight jam. Like I said, I didn't put it out um because I kept on having to go back and edit it because I was like, nah, I'm not ready to put it out yet because I felt like I need to put more information into it, right? But like I said, now I'm satisfied with it. I have enough information. And I think, like I said, I know for a fact if you guys like, a build is a build, but when I do a pay-per-view, I'm trying to definitely put more into it to make it worth it for the people. You know what I'm saying? So definitely. And like for the most part, yeah, from time to time, we had these conversations about, the history and everything, but mostly I'm trying to make that transition into just doing presentations. I still do presentation on my channel. They may not be as lengthy as they were in the past, but I'm still going to do presentations. But Like I've done a couple. Well, shit, I've done at least about at least eight presentations through PowerPoint, and I got about 12, 13 PowerPoints. On sufficient information that's definitely critical to our existence here in North America, Central and South America as well, right? So, like I said, I've condensed it. I put a lot of time and effort into this. I put a lot of time and effort a lot of time and effort. Before, when I used to do builds, I think about them for like maybe 3 days and then just go right into it. This build is something different. And like I said, I've done a couple. We have done a lot of builds. We have done a lot of me, AP, Jag. I have done my own individual builds. I have done builds with Amani, like I said, AP, a lot of individuals, right? It's such as myself holding it down myself, as well as debates. You see my debate format is very lengthy. I have a lot of information in my slides and in my PowerPoint. So definitely, I'm definitely not going to cheat y'all. Like, so the information is something that's critical. And like I said, the PowerPoint itself, I felt like it took me a lot of time. That's why I charged $25 because it took me a lot of time and effort to put together this PowerPoint. So definitely tickets going to sell tomorrow, as you see in the description. Well, as you see on the screen. All right, so the pay-per-view is February 22nd. It's at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Tickets going to sell tomorrow, which is February 18th. Cash app it to dollar sign attention is one, which is on the screen right there, right? Put your email in the description. So that's the way that I will be sending the link to you. It's very crucial and very imperative that you put your email in the description. Please do not forget to do that. And if you didn't get the link, because we're not trying to like wait until the time of the actual PowerPoint or presentation to go through, I want to make sure at least by 2 o'clock or by 1 o'clock, everybody who paid got their link or whatever. So definitely, you got my email. My email is chiefatonchon@aol.com. So you'll definitely see when I send the email. And I'm probably gonna do a blast email. I'm just gonna CC everybody everybody who had purchased a ticket for the actual PowerPoint. So like I said, definitely come through. And this is like I said, this is my transition. I've done some presentations, but I'm pretty anonymous when it comes to this shit for for different reasons or whatever. I've done presentations, I have recorded so, and maybe one day when I really want to just put everything out there, I'll put it up on my channel though. But I've done presentations, I've done 6 hour builds, I've done a lot of different bills when it comes to this information, or just off of YouTube itself. So definitely, y'all already know I cuss. You already know. I mean, I can sit here and rehearse it, but the energy, the energy is like the fact that you come in and be yourself. It's not so much you're trying to, like, I'm speaking to my people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying not to cuss a lot. And I'm not trying to say a bunch of lewd curses and say things to where it's not. But grown ups shouldn't be. They shouldn't be so sensitive to cussing. Now, if you want to say kids, that's another thing or whatever. But as far as grown ups, grown people, like, everybody cuss sometimes. Everybody cuss. I mean, shoot, I haven't met pastors that curse. I've met individuals who was heavily into different faith systems curse. So I'm not saying because they curse is okay, but hey, that's just the way I present the information. So definitely be looking out for that. But like I said, tickets going to sell tomorrow. All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna get into this old world joint, and then it ain't that long. It's not that long, but it's very informative, And if we got time, I'll put another video in it. But today I just want to kind of show the structures, and I just want to do something different, man. So peace to gods, man. Peace to goddesses. All right. So let's get into this. All right. All right. So here we go.
And at the time, there's supposed to be a massive construction going on behind the courthouse, which I'll get to in the video as well. Here's another scene of hustling and bustling streets, but no construction to be seen whatsoever. And finally, we come to the city hall. Again, about a 25-year-old building. We're told at the time you could see the weathering in the lower area and up around the top as well, indicating the possibility that this is much older. But you be the judge. Newark, New Jersey.
And real quick, I just want to say fair use and shout out to the brother. Subscribe to the brother channel. It's called Old World. It's not Old World Florida, but Old World. And he put a bunch. He got a lot of like a lot of the evidence and information that we've been talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as the American fairs, a lot of the Greco-Roman Roman structures, the cathedrals, some of the castles, the towns. Like I'll be watching it sometimes, and I'll be like, damn. And like I said, I came from this. I probably was one of the first people in the community to bring this to a lot of our as far as the Aborigine and the Tonkinese community or Indian community. I probably was one of the first individuals to touch on these particular topics with the structure. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody else that touch on it. But yeah, man, this he got a very interesting channel. It's called Old World.
Setup mode is off.
Oh,
Just a moment while this device reconnects.
Shut up, Alexa.
Your echo is ready.
Okay, thank you. All right, but however it go, right? But he has a lot of great information on like a lot of these structures. And mainly we research and we look at the time of its inception or the time of the construction, and we always see founded or whatever. So from there, we pretty much we're speculating with a hypothesis, right? We're speculating with a hypothesis. Don't you can't say everything that a person say is factual based. But we know for a fact that these people didn't invent these buildings because we can match these buildings to all around the world. And we have to say that it was a global infrastructure that had to start originally in America because America is the old land. America is the first land or the first continent that hit the surface. The first continent. The people of America, which is the American Atanchans, which is us, right? The Atanchan is individuals from this landmass, the ones that literally, right, literally, like they tell you in Genesis, came from the soil, raised from the soil. The mineral composition in this landmass is what created the American Aborigine. This is the reason why we are the Americans, because our body structure, our physical composition, our third dimensional existence here comes from this land itself. So that's what make us Americans, right? Or Amarul Ka, or Amarul Khan, right? That's what make us the original and only Americans there is, right? So, we like I said, we turn up every stone and see what's out there as far as when it comes to this information, man. So shout out to everybody, man. Look, man, I got another computer, man. So um I mean, shit, I got 3 laptops, but my other laptop, some for some reason, it won't it won't let me stay on the StreamYard. When I start sharing my screen, it kicks me off. And it's a Dell. I pay almost $1,800 for this computer. Not the one I'm on now, but my other computer. I pay $1,800 for this computer. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it got like up to, I think it got 2 GB. I think I said 1 GB, but no, it had 2 GB. I went and looked at the what's the name the other day, and it has 2 GB on it. But however it go though, this computer right here, I mean, it's just gonna pretty much be for just me doing live streams and everything. And I gotta kind of like put some more. Well, not even put no more. I got a what's an internal hard drive right here, but this one only got one port, so I didn't spend a lot on this computer. I spent like 600-700 on it, but it's not as good as my other computer, but it's gonna get the job done, man. So definitely shout out to everybody, man. You definitely gonna be getting at least one bill a week from me. And like I said, I got a bunch of pay-per-views that I will be doing. Allah or Ilah or God's will, if He allow me to do them or whatever, definitely. And like I said, some bills. So we're gonna definitely get back to it. The only thing that was holding me back, like I said, was my StreamYard, and I didn't have time to always. Sometime I don't even like how you come home from work. You don't even be motivated. You be motivated to do it, but then you get one technical error. You like, man, I haven't worked all fucking day, man. Look, I'm just not gonna do the bill, whatever. And that's what happened a lot of times, though. But shout out to everybody, man. You know what I'm saying? So let me get back into this, man. Fair use, though. Definitely fair use. And subscribe to this brother channel, man. Peace of God. And press one for me if you guys can hear it too, because I'm muting my mic.
Yes, Newark, New Jersey. You can see here, from 1949 to 1967, they demolished at least 10,000 historic buildings across 2,500 acres. It's all too common occurrence in the locations that come up here on this channel. And I'd like to dedicate this video to Matthew Smith, the late Matthew Smith of Marvelous Old World, who I consider to be a good friend of mine. We had a few podcasts. He was an architect and very brave man, challenging the status quo of his profession. And if you are not aware of his channel, I definitely recommend you check it out. I'll put the link to that in the description, but this one's for you, Matthew. Matthew grew up in the Newark area. Okay, let's begin with some geography. You can see Newark, New Jersey, just across the way from Manhattan, basically. This is an old world hub region, which I haven't really covered in depth here on this channel. It's just too much. One of these days I'll get to that, but we're looking across the state line into Newark. And the population demographics in the modern day, we're just over 300,000. We turn the clocks back to the turn of the 20th century, and we're not that much smaller than we were at the time, or than we are now, excuse me. Decent sized city, that's for sure. And you saw in the intro there, the city looking very well established. Let's take a look at some of the architecture. And if you're just arriving to the channel or not familiar with what I'm doing here, the premise of what I do here on this channel is to question the historical narrative that's been laid out for us. I'm not offering any solutions or answers because I really can't, but I'm speculating as to the historical narrative we've been given about the timeline of how we got to this point in history. The suggestion being that there's a massive misdirection going on here with the historical narrative, and in fact that what we're seeing is much older than we're being told. So we just start with some street scenes, very wide streets with a nice meridian down the middle. Makes me wonder if there was a rail car line here that's been filled in. You see the type of architecture which they'll say is Victorian, which I would suggest is from the previous civilization. Now, that sounds like a very grandiose statement. A lot of people get confused by that if you're not familiar with the narrative. All I'm suggesting is that there was much more going on and our history has been rewritten, as I just mentioned. It doesn't have to be a big, mysterious um, theory coupled in with giants and angels. Although all those things are possible, I'm not saying they're not. I'm just trying to make the case for you that what we're seeing here is much older than we're being told, and there has been a rewriting of history and the history books. And history, as we know it today, is one big lie, basically. Looking at the back end of a church here, you can see there's a cross in the background. Very solid architecture, very high level architecture. The historical narrative we're given, the timeline is attached to the Industrial Revolution and the very, very speedy onset of technologies. And I think that's how we get the explanation for a lot of these structures having been built in such short time periods, coupled with the very industrious and skilled population of the time. And that's not to take away from anyone who lived at the time, and because I definitely believe that the certain skills were at a much higher level than they are now. We have been deteriorating in that department as a part of this erasing of our true past. But the suggestion is that, again, there's much more going on to history than we're being told. This is just a street scene, just to give you a sense of the cobbled streets that look very worn and look like they've been there for a very long time. The historical narrative not really allowing for that gradual progression to take place. Historical narrative will tell us that all of this sort of popped up everywhere all around the same time, and that the street rail cars were in fact introduced to be pulled by horses initially until the magical invention of electricity and Mr. Thomas Edison and all the rest of it. I think, again, it's all a misdirection. There's much more to our history. There's much more richness and depth to our history than we're being told. I think it's a
Hey, look, that I think that this the house that's on the screen. I think that's on High Street, right? That's on High Street. They just renovated. If that's the same one, they just renovated it, right? That's a historical land site. I mean, historical building, right? They just renovated it, man, and it got the red brick, and we know that when you see the red brick, limestone or adobe, we know that that came from us, man. And most of the stuff has limestone and red brick in it anyway. So you already know that is ours. And when you see that old, like the old cement or old adobe that looks like it got like a grayish color to it, grayish tannish color, you know that them are our old structures. You know what I'm saying? And if they are built like in the Greco-Roman with the pillars that's holding it up, and you know what I'm saying, you'll know. You already know that this is our structure because it has the pyramid shape to it. You know what I'm saying? That's our original structures, the ones that have the pyramid shape to it. Yo, share this build out, man. We've been doing, I mean, even on the last build, I got like about 1,500 views or whatever. I guess, look, they always hire me on the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? I've been stuck at 25,000 subscribers for 5 years. For 5 years, I've been stuck at 25,000 subscribers for 5 years. And even though I've been doing bills and everything, and I'm on TikTok and I'm not on every social media pushing this, but I don't know how my subscription base just never, like, it's just been at a standstill or whatever. But I know that they definitely blocking me on the algorithm. I'm being shadow banned, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But definitely share the build out, hit the like button if you can, so that we can get more. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, this information is groundbreaking always. You know what I'm saying? And I've been doing this for a long time, even though I'm in and out the game sometimes, because like I have other people who's kind of pushing the information. So as long as the information get out, I'm not one that's sitting up in here. You know, um, I don't need to do a bill every day for me to kind of be relevant or whatever. But definitely, I enjoy doing bills when I have time. You know what I'm saying? When I have time and everything is working correctly or whatever, I definitely enjoy doing builds. Though, but this particular structure is something groundbreaking. And I wanted to start with Newark. I wanted to start with Newark because Newark, like I see, like Newark has a lot of historical buildings that we already know, and I've like even the courthouses. The courthouses is made out of granite, and it has like the gold seal that's keeping the granite blocks or the granite how do I want to say the panels in place. You know what I'm saying? So that was something interesting that I've seen, and as well as like the structure, everything is in this everything is cement, or it's like a cement um type of what's the name? It's like a cement. It's granite, but it's also like a granite cement type of structure or whatever, like even the railings and everything, right? There's no wooden, like there are old like wood inside some of these structures, but when it comes to like the railings and like when you walk up the stairs, the staircases and like the you know what I'm saying, the stair rails, all that shit is made out of like I said, like a granite type of material. You know what I'm saying? It's not wood like how we normally see wood structures though. But let's get back into this, man. Peace to guys, peace to goddesses, man. Hit that like button too, man. Share the build out. Peace to guys.
A mistake to hang your hat on the history that we have been fed. Just another look at some of the houses you're likely to see at the time. We come to the Adams Theater, several theaters in Newark, and a lot of them they'll say were built at the inception of the motion pictures. My suggestion is motion pictures came in and overhauled a lot of these performing arts venues from the old world, where the performing arts and the arts in general were highly revered, and that has been a diminishing process. And as you can see, this building diminishing. Looks like it's standing on its last legs. Not sure if there's a restoration effort to preserve what's left of this, but this is the state you see the Adams Theater in currently. We'll keep moving forward. It is a fairly large file with a lot of visuals for you. The aluminum works, just a ghost of a building, and obviously some sort of false background. Very common in a lot of these old photos to have snipped and clipped old photos and postcards, both showing a lot of that evidence. This is the American Insurance Company building. Couldn't really find a lot on this one. I think it's the previous version of this one. Not sure. I thought I would include both. Very mysterious as well. You get these replacement buildings and the story that goes with it. It's very similar to a lot of the courthouse narratives where they'll say there were 4 or 5 courthouses on the same spot, some of them magically being rebuilt in a year, then being consumed by fire, despite the fact that they're built of stone, brick, and steel, and then they build a new one. And I think a lot of that has to do with handing down a false start narrative to us.
That building right there, right? This building that he's showing, that's a hotel now. That's but right behind the Devil Stadium, the Prudential Center, right? It's right behind the Prudential Center, but they made that into a hotel now, right? Now, like I said, all of them structures, right? These people, whoever built them structures, built all of them. This is not like someone can just come and imitate the architectural designs or whatever. The original people built this, which is our people. We are the original, so we are the people who actually built this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Despite the efforts that they will go and say that, oh, well, we got here Indians were, what I'm saying, was primitive. And like I said, in this build, I'm not gonna go all into that because that's not what the topic of the actual pay-per-view or presentation is about everything. The topic of the conversation is that America was inhabited by melanated mortal. When I say mortal for dark skin, right? We're not Negro, black, or color, but mortal, or you say brown or copper colored people, which is our ancestors, right? And we see most of these structures in the in the vicinity, right, from the northeast, right, the tip Halifax, um, Canada, right, the Micmacs, and all through certain regions of Canada, even Toronto area, they got buildings and stuff just like you found in America, right? So you find from that vicinity, right, from the northeast, right, the eastern seaboard that's sitting on the mouth of the Atlantic Ocean, right, all the way down to Florida, right, all the way down to Florida, right, and even through some of the interiors of some of the islands, and there's some islands that is also underwater, right, down back through Florida, right, which is Florida all the way from Florida all the way from Florida all the way into Mississippi, right? The Mississippi River, right? Down through the Yucatan, right? And then up the Mississippi River when you get, Delaware, Ohio, Louisiana, Mississippi, all of that, all the way through Chicago and everything, right? But if we got time, I'm gonna show you the structures in Alabama too. So we're gonna do North, and we're gonna probably possibly cover some of Alabama, right? All right. So peace of guys, man. I don't want to keep interrupting, but I just want to kind of like just give a little understanding to like some of these buildings that's in North, because I'm from North, man. So peace, peace.
And you get all sorts of this decoration. Is that an eagle? Maybe it's different. Maybe it's a phoenix. Not sure. Nice looking structure. Seen several of these across the states in very similar style with the dome on top. A lot of speculation has surrounded what these were used for. Was it just for decoration, or were they some sort of docking location for dirigible air travel? Dirigible air travel, a big part of the old world narrative, and I think there's much more to uncover as far as that's concerned. We have the American National Bank, and if I gloss over a building, it's likely because I could find very little evidence of it or any visuals, really. The Newark Arcade, here you can see with all of its decoration, again, very ornate. And I want you to think back again to that video footage, and I'll put the link to that in the description as well. And I mentioned how there's very little construction going on. Well, you turn the clocks back 20, 25 years from then, and history tells us that the entire city was being constructed. So you would just have a war zone of construction if we're to believe the historical narrative. I think I'm very skeptical of that. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to have all these buildings lumped into the very similar timelines within a couple of years of each other, or the possibility is even there to do that. It still stands, and this is the state of the arcade in the modern day, and this is what they do to these buildings, leaving us very little trace of what it once looked like, a way of erasing the memory of the past. Speaking of erasing the memory of the past, I did venture a little bit further away from Newark. Sometimes people get mad and want to scold me on my geography. I'm aware this is not in Newark. In fact, it's in Morristown. And as you can see, Morristown, not really all that far away from Newark. But I think it's very important to dive into the asylum narrative as a part of the erasing of the past. So we get to the Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital. 1876 is when this was completed. They give us very little details as far as when construction began. They did demolish it fairly recently in 2015. You can see here at its peak in the 50s, over 7,000 patients. So they were jamming these places full post World War II, probably before World War II as well. And this one, when I did a little research on it, also said that it was one of the largest psychiatric facilities in the U.S., second only to the Pentagon in floor space. That phrase struck me because this is the Columbus State Hospital in Ohio. Just a little snip from its Wikipedia write-up, and it also says the building was said to have been the largest in the U.S. or the world until the Pentagon. So there's that comparison again with the Pentagon. But we're focusing in on the Greystone asylum. There it is. Just to give you a sense of the level of detail. It does still stand, but it has been obviously diminished. Oh, no, sorry, it doesn't still stand. This is a recent photograph, but it was demolished. It just gives you a sense of the scale. These things were all over the place. Many of my videos include an asylum, and no exception here. I also wanted to add this tidbit. Dr. Walter Freeman popularized the lobotomy. So we're talking about erasing the past. Well, this is a literal way to erase the past for an individual. He's famous for making this basically an office procedure rather than a surgical operation. And he caught fire from his colleagues for taking it into that area, if you will. Performed over 4,000 lobotomies. I don't know what more I can say about that, but if you think the asylums were there for the betterment of mankind, you need to do a little more research. The auditorium, this one built in 1894. Now, take note as we move forward of the dates on these buildings again. See how many we can pack into that 20-year period. This one's demolished. This should say 2000s, excuse me. Beautiful looking structure. They did redo the facade, much like the arcade, before they eventually ended up tearing it down. Also, another large part of the historical narrative has to do with the breweries. Well, what I suggest were repurposed complexes, industrial complexes, turned into the production of alcoholic beverages. As we all know, alcohol dulls the senses. Not to say that I don't indulge from time to time, and not to judge anyone who does, but I think there's an underlying element to the social acceptability of alcohol coming out of this time period as well. There's a better look at that brewery complex. We'll see several more breweries as we move forward, but I'll keep the file moving. We have the new Bamberger building. Just look at the facade styling, reminiscent of what we see.
Now, if anybody know, right, and look, just a question, right, just to the people that actually know that I'm talked about this. What do they call them arches in between, like the window pattern right there? What do they call it? Anybody in the chat room? Do you remember what they call them arches? If you remember. Okay, I see y'all guys still ain't drink y'all coffee yet. Right, they call Corbel arches, right? And you remember the bill me, Jag, and AP did on the American Indian Encyclopedia, right? They're called Corbel arches, right? And you see that the Corbel arches is what the arches that was actually invented in the Americas, right? And it has the same structure, but also it's like the Islamic style of Corbel arches that you see too, right? Because of the Islamic style of Corbel arches that you actually see, and that probably is like that's the evolution of the Corbel. But the Corbel originated. We was the first one that made the Corbel. You see that they don't really use Corbel arches too much like that these days, right? They don't use too much of the Corbel arches these days, right? But most of the ancient structures you see, they all have a form of the Corbel. Was it a round Corbel, or it's more like that triangular like style of Corbel, right? But all of them, when you see the Corbel arches, right, that's how you know that style of architecture came from the Americas, along with a lot of other stuff that he's going to be showing, right? A lot of the other stuff that he's going to be showing. So I just wanted to stop just to talk about that. Let's continue to build.
We see on cathedrals. I also have this building, not sure what it is. I did have it under Bamberger, but I don't know. I just thought I'd include it. Anyone knows anything else about this one? Put that in the comments below. We get to the Behringer High School, which you did see in the intro. They say this one was built in 2 years before the turn of the 20th century and eventually ends up getting demolished in 1965. Let's have a better look at this one. Here we get a visual of the high school, no cathedral in the background, and this is kind of what I was talking about. And you can see actually around the building itself, some funny business seems to have gone on, and this is what I was talking about with the alteration of visuals from the past. Don't be so naive as to think that there.
Now look at Barringer, right? That's Barringer. That's a freaking high school, right? That's a freaking high school. Now they still got high schools that look like that because Weequay High School looks like that, right? And it's kind of sitting like on a hill. Like if anybody ever been to Jersey and you've been in Newark or you've been on Chancellor Avenue, there's a school called Weequay, right? Weequay, right? Weequay. We call it Weequay, right? It's a big park. It's an area in Newark called the Weequay section, and the majority of people in that section is basically what you would call American Aborigines, Indians, blacks, or African Americans, right? Predominantly in that section, right? Predominantly, you know, a lot of the homeowners is Negroes. A lot of the homes are huge, you know what I'm saying, in that area. And like I said, it has a predominantly, Negro population, right? And then, like I said, the school is called Wakway, right? Which that is also an autochthonous name, right? But the school itself is not as big. Well, eh, no, it's not as big as the Barringer High School you see right here, but it has some size to it. It's at least about, if I had to guess, it's at least about maybe 20,000 square feet. If I had to guess, if I'm correct, or I'm not too savvy when it comes to like looking or the square footage of these structures, but it has to be because it's very huge. Now this building right here is huge. Now, like I said, these structures was already here. That building had to be here from at least the 1800s, man. At least the early 1800s, if not, well, shit. Let me stop because it might be older than the early 1800s. That building right there may be five to 1,000 years old. You understand? Look at the area that this building is in. Now, see, they will tell you that this building was invented when we had engine propelled vehicles, right? So that you can transport some of the materials that it takes to build this building, right? But you got to also understand this too, right? These buildings was possibly built without cranes, right? You know what I'm saying? Was possibly built without cranes. That's something that I got to look into, like, what I'm saying, as far as the history of cranes, right? But like, what I'm saying, like the way that they actually um constructed this building, right? Or erected this building, like who knows, man? You know what I'm saying? Only your ancestors, and it may be in your DNA. Maybe you can, get a download to where you can possibly get a thought or a hunch or, a hypothesis or maybe a theory of how they actually use how they got the materials there to build this stuff, man. It's amazing. That's an amazing building right there. And when I seen that, I was blown away. I was like, wow, that's very interesting right there. All right, so let's get back to the bill.
There was none of that going on. It was actually very prominent. Because there we see it with the cathedral in the background. Not sure the date on this postcard. Very prominent looking cathedral. Very old looking cathedral as well. I look from the backside out in front of the Sacred Heart Cathedral. And I included this one as well because with the postcard, with a little bit of the cathedral, and I think they're trying to tell us that it's under construction here. I don't see how these towers match what's below. Caught red-handed, maybe. The Belmont Avenue Brewery. Again, beautiful looking structures. There's another look at Belmont Avenue Brewery. We'll keep moving forward. Quite a few churches as well in Newark. This one stands out to me. This one probably lost its tower, but this one down here looking very stone. Presbyterian, 6th Presbyterian, many Presbyterian churches in Newark, New Jersey. And as I often like to do, I like to keep the street scenes for you just to give you a sense of the scale of the structures that existed. And again, the width of the streets and the technology at the time. Now, this is a view of the backside of the Central High School. Let's take a look at the front with some information here. So this is a 2-year build time on this behemoth of a castle that they call the high school. You can even see it has this lower section with all of these stairs. It's absolutely amazing. They renovated apparently in 20.
Now that's Central High School. Okay, Barringer is a whole nother totally different high school. This Central High School, they built a new Central High School probably about maybe 10 years back. Yeah, about 10 years back. Maybe like the early 2000s, they built a new Central High School. But this original Central High School, look how it looks. Look at the top of it, right? How it has like them. I don't know what you want to call them. They want to call them maybe pillars at the top, like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what they call, but it has more of that Greco-Roman style building structure, right? But the Greco-Roman style is what they call it the Tartaria, right? But Tartaria is just another is another word to take it away from our people having credit of doing it. They always want to give credit to all these different people, but we already know we the gods. We already know we the gods. We already know every invention that is mandatory, that is used for, you know what I'm saying, for human advancement, right, was invented by us. Every fucking invention. So with that being said, we know that these structures was here before Europeans got here. We know that the Native Americans didn't have no capability of building the structures, right? I'm also gonna kind of like I'm gonna go into some of the roles and everything, right? And I'm gonna show you like even a lot of the towns, right, that we see. They telling you that you was a slave to an Indian, but yet the Indians is living in teepees. And then once you release, you went on to build structures, and you actually had no contact with. Well, you had minimum contact with Europeans, according to them, right? So how are you able to be released out of slavery, right? The people who had you captive for decades, or lifetime, or whatever the story that they come up with, right? You was able to get from underneath underneath their will, right? And then you was able to go into these towns and build buildings, houses, and all of the stuff that we see our people building. Ain't no Europeans have no internship schools for us to learn how to build this stuff, how to make 90-degree angles, how to make the Corbel arches, how to make all of these different structures. You know what I'm saying? We didn't go into no European externship or internship, you know what I'm saying, school, or nothing for us to learn this. So how was we ever imprisoned, or in what they call in bondage? I don't want to say enslaved, because enslaved is dealing with Slavics, but according to them, when they talking this trail of this bullshit, trails of the tears story, to kind of lie to you why you don't see Native Americans on the northeastern seaboard, where they say Europeans originally came. Europeans originally came where? Oh my God, when they talk about Thanksgiving and all that shit was in Connecticut. But yet, when I show you the tribes that's in Connecticut and Massachusetts, these are Negroes. And like I said, I'm gonna be showing all this shit again in before 1492. America was a Negro continent. I'm gonna show you some real shit in Connecticut, in Massachusetts, in New York, in a lot of places or whatever that people haven't covered. You know what I'm saying? So like, how is the inhabited, and even when we get into um Crispic Addicts, right? When we get into him, I'm gonna be showing you that that he's an Untanchan. You understand what I'm saying? So, like I said, you know, even with the Trail of Tears story, that story is to kind of get you off or get you away from why you don't observe or why there are no Native Americans. None of the Native Americans, they telling you Native Americans are classified as color. We don't see no Indian looking people being classified as color in the urban communities or just walking around now with the last names that we have, right? And classified without being Indians or without, you know what I'm saying? We don't see none of them people. When we see them people in our family, they're even, you know what I'm saying, like we'll look at them like they, okay, they mixed, right? They half white and half black, right? But the Mongoloids itself, you don't see no Mongoloids in your family. And then even with the half white, half black Indians, there, the white people are claiming Indians because they really are Indians. So, and this is the thing that a lot of us don't understand. When I get into them dolls roles and show you that shit was for white people who were slaves, right? That shit was for white people who were slaves up under our bondage, right? The story went in reverse. That was for them to give them allotments of land. Because remember, no foreigner can own land here. If you came through the vessel of a Slavic mother, that was your status, my nigga. That was your status, no matter how you looked it. And we kept records of that so that these people can't come in and do what we see the talented 10 do in the late 1800s, etc. Right? Oh, fuck. You know what I'm saying? That was the whole purpose of that. That's the purpose of why we kept records of mulattoes, quadroons, and all of them classifications was made by Aborigine black people. And them was to show you how much so-called Aborigine blood you had in you. But later on, they went on to change this type of stuff. They changed it. They hit us with the face off method. They took our face off, they took our face, put it on their face, and then gave us their face. You know what I'm saying? They hit us with the they hit us with the amnesia. And it's predictive amnesia because it's them putting us in their so-called education systems, making us forget who we were. But you can't hold back DNA. You can't hold back the Akashic records. You can't hold back the downloads that you're gonna get from your ancestors. The only thing that they can do is laugh at us and say what we're saying is preposterous or what we're saying is foolish. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, we're gonna be getting into all this, man. I don't mean to go on a tirade, but y'all already know how I do. So let's get into this. I gotta kind of give it back and forth, mix some of our information with this stuff. So let's get back into it.
2010 to 2017. So it took them 7 years to renovate this thing, but only 2 years to build it in 19 teens. Just a sneak peek for you here of the, what would you call that? The theater auditorium, not sure. This is the level of architecture that existed, and they were building supposedly in the early 19 teens in New York. Certainly don't see any of that in the modern day. And there it is in the modern day, having been scaled back, where a lot of the decoration has been removed. Very common practice with the old world structures. Also the ornamentation, again, why all the ornamentation, and again, built in such a...
And if I'm not mistaken, I just wanted to say this one thing too, right? I think Central High School is now part of NJIT downtown North. NJIT is, New Jersey Institute of Technology, right? Is next to Rutgers, right? And they made that whole area in that little vicinity right there. They made that like a college town, right? Um, my grandfather used to have a barber shop. My grandfather was a barber, and he used to have a barber shop like on Central Avenue before they started making all of them dorms and all that shit right there. He had a barber shop on Central Avenue, on Central in between. What was that? Central, near what we call High Street, but High Street is now Martin Luther King Boulevard or whatever, like in that vicinity right there. But Central High School now, and look, you still see the Corbell. Look at this structure right here, right? Look at the interest of it, right? Now, if honestly, let's be for real now. Let's be for real. You guys in the chat room, right? And I want you to be real with me. Tell me what do that structure look like? That's not in America. Tell me, do that look like an Islamic style structure? Because we can even see that in Central Park. Let me see if I can find it. Hold up real quick. Let me see something real quick. I think I've showed this. Let me see if I can find it. Hold up real quick. Let me see. All right, here. Boom. This joint right here. Let me see. These people are real crafty, man, with how they hitting our shit, my nigga. How they hit it, how they lied about everything. All right, boom. So look, let me change this real quick. Oh, matter of fact, I can put it right here. Can I put it there? No, for some reason. Hold up. Let me stop sharing this real quick. Let me get show it to you. I don't know why this computer, normally when I have this screen open, I can show other tabs simultaneously, but this one is not allowing me to do it like this. So I gotta kind of like figure out. All right, so you guys see this, right? So you guys see that right there, right? Do that not look like? I mean, this may be wider, right? This may be a little wider, right? Than what we just seen at the high school. Let me see something. Let me see. Oh, okay, all right. Let me see something. Oh, okay, I see how it is. Let me see. All right. So this right here. Now look at this. Look at how this is shaped right here. Man. Now we can find this. We can find these same structures in Spain, right? We can find these same structures in um Mexico, right? In Mexico, right? In Central America. We can find the same structure and what they're going to give a credit to and say, oh, these are Spain-like structures, but you still see the corbel. The corbel is present. This is a more of a circular corbel structure, or what they call the U corbel structures, right? The other one would be more triangular, right? And then they went from making them like that to making them square, right? Making them angle 90-degree angle, right? So this is pretty much similar to what we just seen at this high school. So let me go back to this real quick. Let me stop sharing. Let me see if it works like that. All right. Pretty much same thing. We're gonna see that all through all of these structures. Let me see. Get back here. All right. So boom. Let me go back. Play it.
Such a short period of time, not making sense to my powers of logic, if you will. I just don't see how that makes sense. There's a nice look at the lower.
Real quick, y'all, you guys in the chat room, right? am I? Am I incorrect by what I just showed you in Central Park? That looks similar to the Central High School structure. Let me see. Let's go back a little bit. Right here. Am I incorrect? Is this not identical with what I just showed you that was in Central Park? Mm-hmm. Look, is it not identical? You said what Chip how many? I'm what? I'm not at right. I'm not at all right, or am I right? Is this not similar to what I just showed that's in Central Park? Central Park might be a little wider. They may have more corbels structures, but this interest is similar to what we just seen that's in like you said, even okay. Like, I mean, hold up, let me see. YA 125, he said peace live from London, right? So even in London you see that, right? You see them same Corbell structures, right? But you see them predominantly in the Americas, and then when you see them all around the world, then you got to ask yourself, right? See, we give credit to Europeans of building this stuff when Europeans wasn't even when these structures was being built. Europeans wasn't even a functional society. The European society wasn't even functional. We don't even know if they was even around. You understand what I'm saying? But because now they're there, just like in America, right? You don't know who the original Americans are no more, right? Because now the America has been usurped by what we see now, modern day Slavic people, right? And all around the world, I'm not saying everybody around the world, because there's people around the world who know the original inhabitants of the Americas was, you know what I'm saying? You want to say copper color, some of them, a lot of them call us Moors. You know what I'm saying? But that's a whole nother story, right? But they know for sure the original inhabitants of the Americas are the people that's copper colored with the non-ether style hair, right? With the hair that's like wool, right? Like, so these structures are prominent all around the world. They're saying fan structures will refer to this as a bias of my case study. Yeah, I mean, listen, see, this is, of course, they're going to always disagree with this, right? Because, see, the biggest thing is this, right? When you go to school and you're educated, right? You only know how you only know how to explain from how you've been taught. So if these people lied to you and told you that, okay, well, they already got so much propaganda with the so-called Indians, right? First they did was make you think that the Indians' hair was primitive, right? And the Indians that they showing you, because they are still in that primitive mind state, right? Then people would equate their lack of evolution to what the story that's being told. But the missing part of the story is that the people that they classify as colored, Negro, Black, African Americans, right, are the original people here, and their inventions speak for themselves. But even with the invention, they will come in and, oh yeah, well, what's the brother that created the light bulb? Oh my God, I can't think of his name. Shit. I can't think of his name right now. But Louis Latimer, right? If I'm correct, I think it's Louis Latimer. Louis Latimer, right? They will always make Louis Latimer a sidekick to Edison, right? They will always make him a sidekick, like he was working for Edison and he helped Edison, right? Edison came up with the light bulb, but the light bulb is no good. The light bulb ain't no different from a fucking candle, my nigga, if it don't have the firmament, right? If it don't have the spark to keep the light bulb to where the spark can illuminate the firmament of the light bulb. So whoever created the firmament created the fucking light bulb. Because the only way you can create the firmament is if you understand how the light is going to um how the light is going to illuminate and make it a useful tool that you can actually see, or you can use this to light up an area that's darkened, right? So whoever invented the firmament invented the fucking light bulb. But they're gonna always make you a sidekick to this, and then they put this shit in the history, and then black people study this shit. And then when a nigga like me come up and say this stuff, then they want to sit here and they want to stay stuck in the mind state that they were slaves. You have a nigga like me that's a modern day real, like the whole allegory, right, of a Harriet Tubman. We know Harriet Tubman. We know all the stories. Harriet Tubman was actually a slave because she came from Slavic descent, right? That's why she was a what they call that, a Oh my God, what the fuck they call the black people that the white the white people that was freeing black people? I can't think of it right now, right? But that's why they used her whole allegorical story, right? But someone like me, right, who's really telling you, nigga, you wasn't slaves, man. You may okay, and if you want to say you have a slave in your family, yeah, that's because they came from the white person, and then you got white people in your family, so yeah, you may have a slave that came from your family. You know what I'm saying? They want to stay stuck on this victimhood mind state of them being slaves. Every black motherfucker, no matter how many times we done pulled up white people with slaves, no matter how many times we done pulled up black people, all these black slave owners, no one can give me a definitive answer on why would these racist motherfuckers, right? Why would these racist motherfuckers, right? Who we all equate to being racist, right? Why would they allow black people to buy slaves that they brought over there? And why would they ever free them? Why would they free them so that they could be in the same condition? They could be in the same economic system that they're in. Why? Why do it say only 5% of Europeans own slaves? Why don't it say that? When we getting all of these slave stories simultaneously, Indian slaves, we get from Brown University that there was 2.5 to 5 million so-called Indians enslaved in the Americas, my nigga. That's shit. Oh man, that's probably like 50 times more than the story we getting from slavevoid.org or how many so-called black people was brought over to North America, 200 some odd thousand, which we don't even believe that. Which that story is a myth. You understand what I'm saying? So, so, I mean, I don't understand what you mean. Why I didn't ship them back? Because they white people was invented in America. They wasn't invented in Europe. They weren't created in Europe. Even if you want to go back and let's say you want to entertain the story of the Moors, right? Because I don't believe that. I don't believe the story of Moors. I believe that the people who Moors in Europe came from the Americas. They came from here. They came from here, and then I believe that they calling them that is because they from the Amor or Moro, right? That's a whole nother story, right? When we look at America in its earliest depiction, and when we see the queen with the cornucopia, and she's look like she's throwing jewels and shit out of the cornucopia, and she's being held up by three Europeans, right? Where the fuck did these people come from? Why also in all of these John Ogilvy images that we get that's in Central and South America, Peru, and all these other places, we see white people hiding in the fucking picture. Why in the oh my god, why in the art the what the fuck they call that? Oh, I can't think of the name of it or whatever. But it's in the government. It's in Virginia or whatever, right? Do they talk about this Yakub experiment? Now people laugh at this shit like it's a joke, right? But why do they talk about the Yakub experiment and all of these other stories about people being genetically experimented and created? The Cabbage Patch babies, the incubator babies, all of these so-called um um orphans that we see in the fucking early 1900s. Where the fuck they come from? Where's their parents at? Was they created on an incubator? You understand what I'm saying? Was that used to make their population stronger? Right? Right? And that device could have been invented by a nigga. Right? That device could have been invented by a nigga to make their population more vast than our population. You know what I'm saying? So, like, nah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot when it comes to. We can't believe nothing these people say. Yeah, the Algonquin conquest of the Mediterranean 11,500 years ago. And I've been telling niggas this, and I'm not saying like, look, man, my thing is this, right? We're doing investigative research, right? So when we get a lead on something that's not being told in history, we got to look at this lead. We got to look at this lead. Because on one note, they telling, oh, well, Indians were fucking running around trees and chasing deers and sitting around a fucking fire. And then we get books saying that, no, nigga, the people from the Northeast, whether you want to believe Algonquin is a goddamn language, right? It's a language. You won't believe it's a language. But we didn't seen similarities of that language to fucking Arabic, to Arabic, to Latin. And then they say, oh, these people then went over to Spain, Portugal, Germany, London, Italy, Sicily, etc., Egypt, etc., saying that they left from here. Who would make that fucking story up? And why? And when considering going back to the so-called structures, why do we see the same structures from the Americas that goes to vast different reasons? Why? They had to be invented by the same fucking people. Now check this out, right? Now back to what I was saying, right? Let's get an example of the light bulb, right? They got light bulbs in every fucking country. Every country got light bulbs. You think they independently made them? Yeah, they independently made them once they got the prototype of a light bulb. But the original prototype of the light bulb came from Louis Latimer. So now you see light bulbs in Australia, light bulbs in Greenland, Switzerland, Germany, etc. Right? That original concept came from an Aboriginal man here. But even with that, long before that time, we've been using illuminated lights to light up shit. We've been using them. Now it evolved from time to time, but the prototype of it that even Louis Latimer created, or what they say he created, came from him. So we got light bulbs in every country. We got refrigerators in every country. We got stoves and like I said, I know that I always talk about this stuff, but this stuff is groundbreaking. This stuff is made for you to wake the fuck up. For you to wake up and for you to understand who our people truly are. That's what this shit is for. This stuff is to keep on reiterating, keep reiterating that you weren't no slaves, that your people are the gods, are the fucking gods, my nigga. But look what they did to us. They dismissed, they then turned us into savages, turned us into, mindless zombies, zips. Look at, what I'm saying, drug addicts, prostitutes, harlots, fake gangsters. Look at what they did to us. Look at how they devolved our mind. So this stuff has to always be reiterated. And I don't care if every build I talk about, I mention it, but it has to be reiterated because I don't think that we as a people, we understand who the fuck we are. You understand what I'm saying? We understand who the fuck we are. And I'm saying that I'm putting emphasis on that F or that or the cuss word. Because we don't know. We don't know. And that have always been my thing. You know what I'm saying? I know it's a lot of other brothers and sisters pushing this, man. And I'm glad that people are pushing it. I don't have to be the only one pushing it. But I have my own unique spin on all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a master of everything. I don't have 20 building videos like old world guy, but I was one of the first people to observe that these buildings was here and observe these buildings and structures and the material, the adobe, the red brick, the limestone, bricks being how bricks was slapped, what they call turtleback and all this other stuff, man. I observed that and I said, wait a minute, my nigga. And like I said, even from me just trying to study the whole what we call Moors and all this shit, and seeing that these structures are the same as these structures over here. So if we go back to Louis Latimer theory, right, right, or any of these other inventions, right? If we go back to these invention theory, right, there was only one person who created this invention. Yes, this invention evolved over years, right? People added to it. But the thought that someone made, that someone came up with the thought. Okay, yeah, you may add on to it, but you didn't invent it. You didn't invent it. Yeah, you help advance human technology, but at the end of the day, we are the gods who created it. We're the guys who created it. You understand what I'm saying? All the way from light bulbs now to where you can stick on a wall, you don't even need. You could tap it and the light stay illuminated. All of that, the prototype from that came from the American gods. The same nigga that they're saying with crackheads, drug addicts. Oh, why you niggas having so many babies out of wedlock? Why you have so many single family homes? Why all y'all do is walk around with your pants hanging off your ass? Why all y'all doing is killing these niggas? All of the negative stereotypes that they give us of our people, nigga. We came from this, and we happen to be captive, right? And I say we in mental captivity, right? We're not really in the physical captivity. We more in the mental captivity. The mental captivity is what made us de evolve to and become some of these so-called stereotypes, right? Or some of these so-called degenerate individuals that we see today, that these people classify our whole entire existence as, right? So peace of the gods, man. Let's get back into this video, man. I don't want to keep on. I don't want to keep on going on. Let's get back into this video, though.
And again, built in such a short period of time, not making sense to my powers of logic, if you will. I just don't see how that makes sense. There's a nice look at the lower area with the lower entrances. So it looks like you could go in through the bottom here into the school itself, and then you have a second tier with an entry. So amazing looking high school. Still stands, but certainly not in its original state. There's a look at the center market. Don't know if that's the original one or if it's been refacaded or what. Another look at that location. We're seeing some of the buildings we're going to be getting into here in the background. No shortage of castle-like buildings here in Newark. We come to the City Hall. This is the old City Hall, the previous City Hall. You can see the demolition process going on here in 1907. There's the old City Hall. Here's the new City Hall. It was built in 1902. We saw that in the intro with all the weathering going on in the stone, just 25 years after it was said to have been built. Again, I question the timeline on these, and sometimes if they're giving us a build date, is it really just a refurbishing date? Is it open for business date? I think there's much more to the story. There's the original City Hall, again, with the very worn cobbled streets, lower entrances, ornate decoration. But back to the new City Hall, and just the type of ornamentation you're likely to find on this thing and in this thing as we look at some of the interior. I don't have a build timeline on that one either. A lot of these records seem to be very hazy for some reason. You think this would be a celebrated start to finish and readily available to the public, but just some of the views that you're likely to find in the City Hall here in Newark, New Jersey. Yet another high school, the West Side High School. You can see here, absolutely absurd timeline. Cornerstone laid in 25, and they had it open that September for school. I don't know what that makes the build duration, but 1 year on that, less than 1 year. Give me a break. College of Pharmacy, just thought I'd throw it in. Couldn't find anything else on that. Also, the old Coliseum, just a rendering, just a shadow of what may have existed. Nothing else on that as well. I think there's a lot more to these cities that has been essentially scrubbed, and all we get is just basically a ghost of a visual like this one. The New Jersey Historical Society, I just snipped the front entry for you just to give you again a sense of the building materials that were being used. Now, originally I was searching for this one as the Essex Catholic High School. Apparently the church bought it off the Mutual Benefit Life Insurance Company. Couldn't find a detailed timeline in the historical records. Supposedly it was completed and occupied by 1927, though that's kind of vague because it could be completed any time before 1927, I suppose. Very prominent insurance presence in Newark, as we'll see moving forward. The insurance industry, I believe, a part of the old world capture system, capturing the people of the new world in some sort of financial debt slavery system. But again, this was used as a high school for the longest time. What a high school to be going to, 2 layers of columns. Unbelievable. Here's the courthouse. We saw that in the intro as well. It's a 4-year build time, 02 to 06. So now you're starting to envision a lot of these buildings going up around the same time. Hard to picture. And coincidentally, it seems to be before really we get the motion pictures, which is convenient. And I think there's a link there between the timeline of that technology emerging and a lot of these construction dates. A grainy photo here. Let's look at the modern version of the courthouse. And there you can see the statuary on the top and interesting symbols along the top as well. Apparently this is the previous courthouse. You can see they're telling us this was built in 1838. This thing here, 1838. And population of Newark in 1838, about 15,000 people. This is the type of courthouse that they had the technology apparently to construct. There's the modern one again. We'll jump back to the original. Interesting sort of Egyptian motifs as well for this 1838 structure. There's a better look at it. Meets the wrecking ball. Top hat gentleman standing out front, ready to erase.
And another thing too, right? Hold up. Another thing too, right? Like that symbol of the Lady Ma'at, right? That ain't even a Lady Ma'at. That's the winged dish of Hebrew of Nibiru. That's the Sumerian winged dish. You understand what I'm saying? When they show them wings like that, yeah, Egypt took it on because the Sumerians, or you want to call the people from that bloodline, right, invented that. But then that comes back to Central and South America when we talk about the emerald tablets, and we talk about Thoth, and we even find symbols of what they said may have been Thoth in the Father Crispix artifacts, right? And we also see the Anunnaki, or the so-called reptilians with the wings, right? We see them in some of them so-called artifacts, right? We see some of them in some of the pyramids, my nigga. In some of the pyramids, a lot of that shit they found in these pyramids, my nigga. The Father Crispix artifacts that these people have said, oh, this is not real, but it's made on copper. This shit is like, I don't know how would you say that they were created, but you know, it's it's on copper plates, my nigga. You understand what I'm saying? So even when we get into a lot of this stuff, a lot of stuff comes back to the Americas, which I've been saying for years. I've been saying this for years. And like I said, and all of that is connecting us back to the Americas and what the people was doing here. See, they throw us off with all of that war bonding shit and running around naked and primitive. They throw us off with that. And then because we take on these terms that they call them people, then we put ourselves in their place and we say that these people are us, right? Or we're them, right? This is the culture that we had. But no, nigga, we didn't have that type of culture. Yeah, some of that stuff was for how do you want to say ceremony purposes, right? When you do see people dressed up with the feather, right? Just like how you see now when people having these carnivals. They don't. These people dress up in that, and then later on, they may throw on a motherfucking hoodie. They may throw on a Nike Tech suit with some Jordans, or they may throw on some Louis Vuitton, whatever. But they wear that for the ceremony purposes. You know what I'm saying? So even a lot of the drawings that we see, right? I think a lot of the drawings are actual, right? They actually show you what the people live here, but then they also try to throw you off and make you think that these people was primitive and these people didn't have the science. But the thing what they where they fucked up at was when they put Montezuma in front of that structure that looked just like the structures we seen here, and they hiding it right behind him. Montezuma ran that shit. Okay. So no one came in and built this while Montezuma was running around here with feathers and shit on. They are the people responsible for building it. They are the people responsible for building that what do you want to call it? The observatory that's in Chichen Itza with the swivel dome and with the three that tracks the three sun movements or whatever from March 21st to June 21st and from June 21st to September 21st, which are the seasons that we got, right? So, like I said, man, a lot of this stuff, or most of it, is our own ancestors doing it. And the reason we can't see our people in it because we've been so duped thinking that we just limited to this whole Indian existence, right? Outside of anything that Indians did, my nigga, you know what I'm saying? We equate ourselves with all of that, with the soul food, with the different uses of corn or maize, right? Um, different vegetables, right? The different ceremonies and things that we have, right? Cultural things that we have, right? But also cultural things are also um um how, and I say this too, right? How even in more science, they say what more science is, right? Is astronomy, cosmology, civics, and geometry, right? And you know what I'm saying? Them and into and innovation too. I'll add innovation into that too. Now, whether we take the name off of that and take that back of what the people in Americas is doing, no matter among the many nations, that was all connected. And the thing of it is so even when we see like when people talk, oh, the Iroquois wasn't the Algonquin and then the Muskogee, they was only the Creeks and some of the what the fuck is the other tribe? I always forget the other tribe. The Chickasaw and the Choctaws and the Creeks and all that, the Muskogee, or if they want to say the Muskogee is the five so-called civilized tribes, right? But however it go, right? Just like how we connected now, right? I see a black brother from Louisiana. I don't look at him no different from me. Yeah, we may have a different we may have a different way of speaking, right? But I can understand everything he say. You understand what I'm saying? And the same thing, and we all see our same cultural aspects being circumvented amongst our people, no matter what part of the country you're in. You know what I'm saying? You may have more of a Southern accent. I may have more of an English accent, right? Or not an English accent, but I don't have a strong Southern accent, right? But I've met brothers that's deep in the South that doesn't have a real strong Southern a real Southern accent, right? But I can understand everything they say, everything that I'm wearing, everything that we're doing is all consistent. All of this is cultural aspirations that's being circumvented by our fucking people, no matter where the hell you at or you are at in the Amaru. You understand what I'm saying? So this shit all circumvented. So when we see these so-called inventions and structures and all this shit, this is stuff that all of our people was doing simultaneously. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just one people doing it. You could say different nations. They weren't separated. Like even when I hear people saying this ridiculous shit of you got people living in a fucking a 2 mile radius and you got 25 different tribes and you want me to think all of these tribes have different cultures. No, all of them got the same fucking culture, nigga. You know what I'm saying? I may not eat pork. I may not eat raccoon. I may not eat possum. And some of them may not eat turkey or well, everybody eat chicken, right? You know what I'm saying? But university, we all eat chicken, we all eat fish. You know what I'm saying? We may not always can afford it. That's why some people they will feast on whatever mammals or chicken or poultry that's in their regions, my nigga. You understand what I'm saying? You know, duck and all this shit. Different sorts of fishes. Everybody, whitey ain't everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Motherfucker, some nigga eat porgy, some nigga eat swai, some nigga eat bassa, some nigga, everybody, well, I think everybody eats salmon. You know what I'm saying? Salmon. I'm quite sure every Negro in America done had a fucking salmon cake before. Press one for me if you every Negro in America done had a salmon cake before. I'm waiting for you. Okay. All right. Everybody done had a salmon cake before. No matter what region you in. You know what I'm saying? My pops just died about 2 weeks ago, right? And one thing prevalent that I noticed that he always made salmon cake. And that's something that's embedded in my mind. The salmon cakes, right? When he made pancakes, he made flat pancakes. He didn't make thick pancakes like where you got a thick batter. He made more like a crepe, not a crepe. I don't want to call them a crepe style because it still had some length to it or some elevation to it. It wasn't a crepe is flat, but it was more of a flat pancake, right? More of a flat pancake, right? Um, even I mean, listen, my nigga, I'm a nutritionist, so I'm just saying, like, even back then, see what we don't understand is this, right? We ate certain animals, right? But we also detoxified our bodies. That's what the castor oil and shit is for. You understand what I'm saying? To clean out your digestive tract. When your digestive tract is rotten and full of bacteria and full of parasites and shit, that throws your whole body and your whole organ system off. That's why we use castor oil as a laxative. A laxative flushes the digestive tract out. That's what the laxative is for. That's what the turpentine is for, which is the sap from the pine tree to get rid of parasites, right? That's what the black seed oil is for. That's what the garlic and the onions, all of that shit makes an environment in your system to where parasites they do not want to stay in your system. The bacteria cleans the bacteria out your system and make you frequently go to the bathroom to where you get a lot of stuff out your digestive tract. So yeah, you see people who done ate pork, right? You see people who done ate pork for 100 fucking years, my nigga. You understand what I'm saying? Like real talk, man. Thank you for giving the condolences. Yeah, but my father, like I said, he Yamasi Timacoan, from the Georgia Cuspic Macon area. Um, and I'm glad I had an opportunity before he made his transition, for him to tell me. Yeah, man, we weren't no slaves. And my father had a eighth grade education, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? He had an eighth grade education, and he told me. And when he said it, it was like relieving. It was like something that was just like it just made me like, yo, damn, I'm glad he told me this. And after I talked to him about this shit or whatever, and like I told, you probably done heard me say before, right? I've talked my father. My father family is actually, into the Florida Jacksonville area before it was even Georgia. You know what I'm saying? My father family had over 1,000 acres, man, and from Florida into what now is Georgia, right? And he always told me, he said, "Listen, man, we had so many different hustles back then." He said, "Look, man, we're going our land." and we'd shake the walnut tree and knock the walnuts down and put the walnuts in a barrel and take the walnuts to a mill. And the mill will we will put on a scale, and then the mill will pay us according to how much they was paying per pound or whatever mathematic calculation that they was giving people for some type, for resources, right? He told me he used to take cotton there. Told me he used to take plums, peaches, peanuts, shit, man. He even said sometime they used to fish, and they used to sometimes catch so many fish they'd take fish there and sell it. And they put back then they even had dry ice, and they put the fish on the dry ice at the mills. You understand what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying. A lot of this stuff, like we take, our family, we were sharecroppers, and then niggas say, oh, we were slaves. These niggas these days, oh, we were slaves. They. If you even see the word plantation or sharecropping in any of your so-called genealogy or whatever, you automatically equate that equals slave. Oh, we were slaves, nigga. Word is bond, yo. If you I've seen plenty of people who I had to kind of enlighten because they didn't did their genealogy and say, yeah, I know, man, my people were slaves. They say she was a sharecropper. I said, look the word sharecropper up. Have you looked the word sharecropper, or did you take the word, did you regurgitate some shit that you heard somebody say? Did you actually do your due diligence on the word? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't do your due diligence on it. You believe what you heard somebody else say. Somebody else say, "Oh, we were sharecrop." Sharecropping sound to me like a compound word. Share crops, motherfucker. Do you not get it? Oh, that's not what the white man taught me when I went to African American studies. Or plantation, nigga. Do you know what plantation mean, motherfucker? Plantation is a large farm, nigga. It's a large farm. These plantations was used for import export. Do you not understand? This was part of the trade systems. You had certain people who had their own land that they was able to maintain, right? But then we get into the large plantations. Plantations was used for import export. They was used for trades. We don't know that though. Like I said, you see the word plant. Oh, we were slaves. And then, like I said, these prestigious Negroes that you see walking around with the motherfucking walking around with the pipe and shit in their mouth with the goatee and with the little glasses and shit with their legs crossed. They be like, well, at that time we were slaves. When we were slaves, the slavery system was brutal. And here it is, my father telling me, my nigga, listen, like, and he ain't never heard none of this shit. He ain't never heard of none of this shit. That nigga looked at me like, man, we wasn't my family wasn't no slaves, man. My grandfather, my great grandfather, he said I knew all of them. You know what I'm saying? He said I knew he said he knew his great grandfather, man. These people was living to be over 100 some odd years, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? Until we moved into these cities and moved around these people with this poisonous shit that they giving us. So, you know, take that into consideration, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, take that into consideration, man. That these people then they came up with a method. We don't want these people to know who they are. We want these people to think that they were slaves and that we wasn't slaves, even though we got plenty of records of Europeans, right? Of Europeans, my nigga. We should not have this much information on Europeans being slaves. And then they not mentioning it. So it sounds to me like you got something to hide. If you only telling a part of the story, and then we go back into these stories and we see that you most of listen. And I think I said this the other day too, right? And we had these conversations, man, before. But check this out, right? You think that white men was impregnating so-called Aborigine women. White men couldn't impregnate Aborigine women until they made that Rogam shot. Till they made that Rogam shot. And then the ones that was able to impregnate them, they had a large percentage of Negro DNA or Aborigine DNA in them. So because they look bioptically white, their genes and their genetics go back to your people. So them was the people who was actually able to impregnate a species that they may not had all of the DNA of that species, but the species, the DNA that they did have, it allowed the Aboriginal you know, the Aboriginal woman, her body to accept it. Because other than that, when you look at what the Rogam shot was for, the Rogam shot is once a certain organism impregnate another organism, if the organisms are not conducive, right? Or they're not on genetic pool, the same genetic pool, then that woman, her internal um memory or her internal system would say, no, this is something inorganic. I can't allow my body to produce this. So therefore her body would kill off whatever sperm or whatever um the baby or whatever. It will kill it off. You understand what I'm saying? So like we gotta know this shit. These people is telling you that in all cases, you know what I'm saying, we not saying, I know a lot of people be like, man, some racist shit. No, it's not. This is the truth. And it's like y'all don't want to accept it because y'all don't, a lot of people don't want to feel like they the outcast. That's why like a lot of times, like this is why I go anonymous sometimes. Cause I gotta be around people and then motherfucker could look me up and hear, oh, I'm working around white people and motherfucker saying, yo, man, I pulled you up, Ahanu, and I heard you talking about, and like I said, I can stand there and say, yeah, motherfucker, that's true, or whatever. But you don't really want to be isolated from people, or you don't want to always be the one, you don't always want to be the bearer of bad news when it comes to this shit, to where a person can look you up and shit, and that affects you, it affects your kids, it affects, you know what I'm saying, maybe your spouse and everything. So you have to be real careful when you have these platforms on what you talk about and how it may affect people and how people may be sensitive to a lot of this information. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. So let me get back into some of the bill, man. Let me see what time we got. I'm probably gonna rock out probably for about another maybe 40 minutes. Let me see. Do y'all? Let me ask y'all a question. Do y'all want to watch the rest of Newark, all of Newark? You want me to finish with all of Newark and then maybe come back and do Alabama, or do you want me to show you some of Alabama? Because Alabama's only 30 minutes. Let me know in the chat room. All right, so we got all right, FBA Life said Newark. Um, all right, finish. All right, I finished Newark. Okay, all right, that's enough, right? But hey, look, I promise y'all, look, because I'm gonna be promoting this PowerPoint. So I'm going to do Alabama this week if I don't get through. Let me see how much time I got left on Newark. Because I don't think we halfway through. I got probably about another 23 minutes or 23 minutes to put me. All right, so I guess if I don't fucking talk no more, we can get through Newark and I can start showing you some of Alabama. All right, so let's do that. Let's do that. But you already know I'm gonna be compelled to say something, man. So definitely share the build out, man. Share the build out. You know, you rocking with your brother A1, Atancha this one, or Hano Kiel. Share the build out. We got the PowerPoint coming up, presentation, pay-per-view on February 22nd, which is a Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Um, what is this? Hold on, let me mute up real quick and let me play the rest of this.
Race history. Just some looks at the interior of the courthouse before we move on, giving you a sense of what they were able to accomplish in the early 1900s. Very, very high level, high degree of difficulty in the construction finishing process and the entire process in general. And one thing that you don't often see in my videos is what goes on below ground with these structures, how much there is below, and then you have to get into timelines on excavation technologies available at the time. Now, historical narrative apologists are going to say that they had steam shovels, which makes it all possible, but yeah, I think there's just not enough there. So there's the courthouse from above, and we're looking at the Hall of Records behind, and this is the construction I was saying should have been going on during the video that
All right, see, I know I ain't gonna be able to fucking get through this shit without talking, right? Check this shit out, right? Look, so you see that building, right? Behind it is you got the Hall of Records in the front right there, right? And then you got the historical court building, right? But also in the Hall of Records, it has courtrooms too, right? Now look, oh my God, you know what? What I'm gonna do is the next time I go in there, I'm going to take pictures of the inside of it. Let me see if I can find. Let me see something real quick. Let me see something. Let me see if I can find pictures of it. Let me see something. Let me see if I can find pictures of it. See something. Let me see. Hall of Records. Pictures of the inside. Let me see something. I want y'all to see how this look. And the shit has a tunnel, so you can take it. So there's a tunnel from the actual historical court building that goes into the Let me see something. That actually goes into the Hall of Records. Let me see something. This is a picture right here. Let me see if I can get a better picture of it. All right, bet. This is a good picture right here. Let me see. So they always gotta put this shit like in some type of article or whatever. But yeah, there's a tunnel, right? Now check this out. Hold up. Let me see something. All right, look at this right here, real quick. Let me stop sharing it. Let me open this one up. All right, so there's tunnels all in that area. When he was talking about the insurance, because you do have Prudential, right? You have Prudential, right? And there's tunnels running all the way from the historical building, right? Look, this is one of the images that's inside this so-called that's inside the building. See this? Some Egyptian looking shit, right? Right? And that goes back to when he was just showing you some of the buildings had the wing disable on it, right? Now look at this. Look, remember I was telling y'all? Let me see if I can click on this. Let me see if I can blow this up for you guys. All right, so let me see how large that is. Look, can y'all see the inside? Remember I told you that the so-called staircasing had like got is made out of cement, it's not made out of wood, and the balcony of it is made out of wood. Now, in these little doors right here where you see the court bell arch, that these are also court buildings. When you walk inside the court buildings, right? The funny thing about when you walk inside the court building, let me see this nigga text me. Hold up. Hold up, cause I'm multitasking. All right. When you walk inside these are court when you walk inside the courtrooms, it has like the pilgrims and the pseudo Indians on the like the ceiling or some shit that they painted or whatever. Later on, they probably painted over what was originally there, right? But you can see the paint, you can see that they actually redid the painting. Now I don't know, I'm not saying that they redid it within the last 10 years. This look like they did this shit when they founded it. When once they went to war with our people and moved a lot of our people out of these areas, right? But that's the inside of it, right? Can you guys see that? Look at the inside of it. Look, and like I told y'all, when you walk inside of it, right? It's granite floors. And the granite floors, like, the ceiling of the granite floors look like it has to be brass or gold because there's little fine. There's probably it's probably no bigger than an inch. The sills, like how they sealed it to where it stays in place or whatever. Like they poured gold into the in between the so-called granite tiles, right? They pour gold to interlock the shit in it, right? So that's one. Let me see something. Let me see. See something real quick right here. So that's one of them. Let me go out. I just want to show you how it looks on the inside. This shit is crazy, right? Now look, the Slavic woman, right? The what they call oh my god, what they call a Masonic group? Oh my god, what they call a white women's Masonic group? I can't think of the name of them with the fezzes and shit. I can't think of the name of it right now. Um, look at this. That's the top of it. Boom. See that? And like I said, these individuals could be niggas. And then even in the federal building, right? In the federal building, and I don't know if you're gonna show the federal building, but when you walk outside, it has a cornucopia, and then it had bow and arrows and shit all in the structure of the building. Yeah, I witnessed this myself. It has the cornucopia on the outside of the federal building. I don't know if it's gonna show you that, but let me see something real quick. Let me see. Look at this. And this is the inside of it, like the courtroom. This is some of the courtroom. Now look at this. So you think these poor Slavish people who was eating fucking porridge came here and set up some shit like this? You know what I'm saying? People who was here eating porridge, my nigga. These people was eating porridge. The daughters of the revolutions. That's right. The daughters of the revolutions, the Eastern Stars, right? And the Eastern Stars is more like the how the Boule has the underclass. Well, not the Boule, but the Scottish Rite Freemasons, the underclass of Scottish Rite Freemasons is the Boule, right? Which a lot of the talented 10 came from white mothers, came from Slavic mothers. This is why they used these people because they knew that these people could never own land here, and that as long as they was put under that condition as a Slav, they would be a slave for their duration, for their eternal duration in this third dimension. You understand what I'm saying? These people couldn't own no land; they couldn't own nothing. So they created all of this other shit, but that's the inside of that. I don't want to get too far away. Let me see something. Let me see if I can find some more. Look, look. That's not an eagle. That don't look like an eagle, right? But look in the middle of it. Do you guys see this shit? Look, can you guys see that? Can you see that? You see the 6 point star, right? As above, so below, right? See the inside. See that right there, right? So let's go. Let's see what else we can find. Look, look. When they brought all these Slavic people here, and when the Knights Templar, all these motherfuckers took over a lot of our structures. That's the Hall of Records. Now look, and even in the Hall of Records, right? Them doors are also made of brass. This the inside of it, right? This it don't look like they don't have these lights up no more like this, right? But this is probably a picture from the early 1900s, right? But the doors are brass, right? The doors are brass, and just like the court building doors are at least about maybe 12 feet tall. They may be taller than that. They may be taller than that. No, I say about 12 feet. I'm 6 feet, and they probably double my height or whatever. But they made of brass, my nigga. They made of brass, right? Nobody's taking unearthing no brass, carrying that shit no miles away. Let me see if that's it. Yeah, let me see something real quick. That's the images. Let me see something real quick. Oh, all right. Here's another image of it, right? Boom. Oh, that's the federal building. Look, this the federal building. Let me see something real quick. This the building I was. Oh, matter of fact, you can see the cornucopia. Let me see if I can click on it. Look, I don't know if you could see it. Let me see. The cornucopias are right here where I'm moving my circular. You can see one of them right here. This is a cornucopia right here. You guys can see that? This is the federal building. You see how the federal building look? The cornucopia is right here on the left side, or that will probably be my right side. Or yeah, okay, yeah, it's left and right. All right, so that will be probably my left side right here. On this side is the cornucopia, if you guys can see it. Okay, if you guys can see it. So let me see something real quick. Um, Let me show you the inside of it. And you see, look, it got the blind, it got the mask on it, which they, references justice is blind, but that's not always in reference to what it's talking about. So look, this the inside of the what's the name? Now this is the remix single when they changed everything, right? But this is the Hall of Records right here, right? That's after they changed it. Now they renovated some of this shit. They renovated it. Trying to get to the original joint. Let me see. Look, a aboriginal man, a aboriginal female, right? Let me see. Look, you see what I'm talking about? Look at how this shit is made. Look at how it's made. Now we could pull these same structures, right? Well, that's the federal building. That's the halls of it. Now look at the halls. Look at what the pillars are made out of. That's look this marble. Look, look at the outside. This is marble, right? This is marble. And that's the matter of fact, you know what? That's the federal building. That ain't even a Hall of Records. Let me see something real. Let's go back out real quick. I don't know if he's showing this, but this is City Hall. Let me see if you guys can see. That's City Hall right there. You see the dome on top of it? You see how it's structured? And then even when you get into these so-called mud flood stories, some of the windows go down beneath the ground part, right? Well, let me see. Trying to get some pictures of the inside. These people some lying motherfuckers though. All right, well, let's get back to the video. All right, so that's that. But you guys can see pretty much. Let me see. All right, shout out to everybody that's tuning in with your boy. Please hit that like button and please share the build out. 'Cause like I said, I done been shadow banned for years. I done been shadow banned. I've been out of the allegory, the rhythm of everything, and I know why, because like I said, I don't constantly do builds like that. But however it goes or whatever, definitely share the build out. Let's see something. All right, so let's get back into it.
That we saw, you'd think there would have been cranes and all sorts of stuff that we could see from the shot in the front, but we didn't see any of that, so it makes me wonder as well. The Fireman's Insurance Building, this one stood for 39 years, we're told. Very decorative, very packed streets here as well, the horse and buggies, the multi-storied aspect of all of these structures, and then the technology of transportation at the time. Have a lot of difficulty reconciling the two, which brings a lot of people to this field of research. Now, the fireman looks like an afterthought. It doesn't look like this was an original part of the structure itself. And here's a look at the old one and the new one. And they'll say that this one was built in the same location. Maybe it was. It definitely has some nice ornamentation as well. But again, part of that old and new narrative. And if that's the case and they're building these in these record times, let me just throw out my entire theory for a second. There's something missing from what we're being told about the past. So my theory still stands. There's something that we're not being told that allowed for them to do all this in such short order. Either way, that there's massive holes in the historical record that need to be rectified. This is the Haas Druggist building, relic of the past. Nice little onion dome in the corner. There's the Hall of Records. You can see the build time on that, the 2-year build time, right in that time frame again when they were shooting that video. There would have been a massive construction behind there. There's the Hall of Records. Very nice looking buildings, very well built, solidly built. And a classic statue you see on many of these buildings, the lion with the ball under its paw. Here's another high school. We'll keep moving forward. The High Street Presbyterian, so another Presbyterian church. This one's built in 1852, very early time period, very large looking structure and very well built looking structure for such an early time period. Certainly not built with planks. The Newark Theater. Just wanted to show you some of the ornamentation here on the front. So many of these. If you live in a town that has the old theaters still intact, try to look past the billboards, take a look at the structure itself and what's going on there. There's probably a lot more that's being hidden behind the facade of the billboards. The House of the Good Shepherd, 1875. A lot of these, I would suggest there's probably some orphan gathering going on here. This one gets the wrecking ball during urban renewal. Don't have a date on that. Another street scene. There's the Fireman Insurance Building. The Howard Savings Institution here on the left. There it is with its massive columns. All very difficult construction to accomplish. This is the Kastner Mansion. Has been demolished. You could see in a state of disrepair here, but the level of finishing on the interior. Here's a look at the interior. And there's the fireplace that doesn't look like it was ever built to burn wood. Much more to that story as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, a lot of people who just come to this content, they say, well, what is this guy even talking about? It's up to you to do your research into the old world. I'm not going to give you all the answers in one video. There's so much to it. You have to pull at the thread yourself. It's not going to be neatly packaged for you. Well, here's some more look at the interior of the Kastner Mansion. They did demolish it fairly recently, actually. Here's another mansion, the Kearney Mansion. We have Kruger's Auditorium. Very little evidence of that. Back to the Kearney. Oh, here's the Kruger-Scott Mansion. I might have those two mixed up. I think this is the Kruger-Scott Mansion. Sorry about that. There it is. Still stands. Obviously a landmark. You can go visit. And The story behind it will be that a very wealthy man had it built. But I would imagine if you turn the clocks back 100, 150 years, you'd see a lot more of these types of structures. And they just don't have enough narrative for them all. A large reason why that they're gone now in the modern day. And we have a relatively humble railroad station, but again, built again in that same time period as several of the other structures we've seen. Lowe's Theater. You can hardly see it here. Zoom in, you get the billboard covering all of it, with its columns and ornamentation and pediment, heavily decorated pediment, and even the neighboring buildings. Take a look at the stonework going on here. Even so much as the cornice on the top here has got all sorts of detailing going on. Here because it's not the only one. We have a previous version, just a rendering. This one was built in 1858, we're told. They give us a 2-phase build time on this one, as is often the case.
Now look at that building right here. That's the Prudential building, right? Now look at that building. Look at that building. And like I said, a lot of these motherfuckers, right? Prudential and some of these other people, they are all in cahoots with the JP Morgan Chases and some of these other, the Rockefellers and all these people, right? And that goes back into the story of the Titanic and how they killed off Jacob Astor and a bunch of other rich individuals, Negroes, by I might say, right? That they lying to you about who they really were, and then after they killed them off, they came back and took over. Let me mute her. I answer this phone call.
The second phase overlapping with so many of the other structures that get built. But 1956, it meets the wrecking ball. Let's take a closer look at some of this building, and then they are grainy photos, but this is all I could find on the structure. This giving you a sense of the scale of the building itself, despite its graininess. We're looking at photos taken from the upper reaches, just to give you an idea of the level of the high level of finishing and architecture going on here. And they give us a date, 1890, kind of rudimentary letters, just to let us know when it was built. Ah, yes, the industriousness of the 1890s. Here's your front entry. There's the lion with the ball, probably poached, maybe, and brought over to the Hall of Records. It's me speculating. Some more street scenes for you. Look at the multi-tiered arches going on here. Can you imagine if you could walk by this?
All right. So you see like he said, the multi-tier arches where they start making like these illusion style corbel arches, right? We also see that in we see that in American structures. We also see that in Moorish architecture as well. You understand what I'm saying? In Moorish architecture as well. That's why I tell people, like, be critical on when we talk about this shit. Don't believe everything you hear. These so-called structures are connected to the Americas, no matter if you want to say that they got the name of the people wrong, or they're just assuming that every so-called Negro who was in Europe was under that particular term. Our history is still under that. So you need to know when we have to go back. Was it, like I said, I don't have a problem with the word more. But if you have a problem with the word more, it's perfectly fine. But you still have to understand, in that so-called culture, your history is being accredited towards them. If you don't believe we're the same people, well, how the fuck you believe it? Our history is being credited towards some of their accomplishments, and you can't see yourself in the story outside of your genealogy, outside of what's your family and all that. You still want to know what the capabilities of your people were. Whether this shit may not be important at all to nobody, right? Knowing what was your capabilities, but when people is talking and downplaying who we are and our accomplishments and the shit that we was able to get society, if you don't know this information, then you can't be part of these conversations if it matters to you. Because if it like even with these tethers, right? Even with the tethers, with the whole FBA thing and how we going back and forth with some of the brothers and sisters that may be Negroids or apparently black that come here and down our people. And I'm not saying everybody do that. I'm never going to say everybody do it. You know what I'm saying? But you have a lot of people that come here and they look down on our people and they don't even know, outside of people taking on your culture, right? Because I can't even tell a Jamaican from a Haitian, from anybody, because when they come to America, they look like you. No matter what, they look like. We can't even tell what we don't even know what one look like because you're so busy looking like us. And you know that this ain't your culture when wherever you came from, and it's perfectly fine. But don't bring up the conversation to where a person will have to check you or whatever. If you like no one, because I like I said I don't down talk nobody. So it don't I don't sit there like what I mean, Dominican, my Puerto Rican brothers, Cuban brothers, Jamaican brothers, Haitian brothers or Guyanese or whatever. I don't down talk nobody. And I don't sit there and be like, man, you looking like one of us and all. I don't do all that shit, man. I treat a person for the content of their character. But if you happen to have some negative shit to say about my people, then I gotta go left on you with that. And I have all of the different ammunitions and different weapons to be able to go into all of that. So don't rattle my cage because I don't rattle your cage. But if you start talking this, oh man, Negroes, oh they don't want to work and they don't want to do the look at what effort did it take to build this building, my nigga, for you to be able to walk into? Who created the elevator for you to be able to go up the multi levels? We built it. Why when you in these buildings, you're not sweating like you're in a goddamn sauna or a steam room? Because we invented the air conditioner, right? Right? So just know that. Just know that. Just know that. Just know that. And this is a fact. This is a fact. This is what we was doing. We was doing this. I don't know what other people was doing, and I'm not trying to compare and contrast or talk down, talk negatively about anybody else and what their people was doing because you living. I'm like, however you living, you was living how you living. If that's how you wanted to live, then I'm perfectly fine with it. But don't compare and contrast once you get over here what you are able to accomplish because you would never be able to accomplish what you was able to accomplish if it wasn't for the black Americans, the Aboriginal Americans. And I'm saying that even after they done flooded our towns, even after they done burnt our town, even after they done lynched niggas and burnt niggas to find did all of this horrific shit to our people, right? We still continue to fight. Because if you would have came here at the time that this was going on from another country and looked like us, your ass would be hanging from a tree. We made it possible to where you can live over here and live peaceful or whatever. And I think that goes over a lot of people's heads. I think a lot of people fail to realize that. The only way you able to over here to go to school next to this white person right here, right, is because our people made it possible for you, right? Did our people not make it possible for other people to come here? And like I said, and there's plenty of people who give credence to that. Okay, it's plenty, man. It's plenty, man. We got a lot of brothers, man. I got a lot of brothers um that I'm cool with from different black ethnicities, man. You know what I'm saying? My brother Carl Victor State, he ate. And that's my motherfucking brother. You understand what I'm saying? We got my other brother, Juan. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of other brothers and sisters that come here to hear this information. So I don't never want nobody to feel like, we taking a shot. We feel like hell no. I'm not like that. But for the individuals that do talk against, our accomplishments and don't understand the history and don't understand the war on drugs, don't understand all of these horrific scientific experiments. And when I say experiments that was done to us, it was karma for the shit that we done to other people, right? But when I say the experiments, the radiation experiments, right? The syphilis experiments, right? These different cancerous and the different what the fuck poison, right? Poison, right? Which is venom. Poison is venom, right? Poison is venom. AIDS, some people, got different understanding of what AIDS is. When you mix blood types and your blood is not conducive to that blood type, then your body create an environment to where it feels like that blood type is poisoning, is trying to dominate your blood type. So therefore your body will read it off as a virus. And once you get it as a virus, now your body is poisoned. Now your body goes into alert. Your immune system start fighting. But how it go? I know I'm going off tunnel. Remember, a build is a build. But venom, right? I've recently seen that a lot of these viruses come from snake venom, right? Different like shellfish venom, right? And these so-called pharmaceutical companies they isolate these venoms and put them into some of these vaccinations and shit. And when you go back and you look into the medical industry, the word virus, right? Virus. First is toxemia, right? First is toxemia. It will be toxemia, something that's toxin, right? That toxin substance create what we call poison, or if you want to say a virus, but I would rather say poison first, right? And then out of a poison they will call it a virus, because the reason why they will call it a virus, because it's something that's ongoing, that cannot be controlled or cannot be cured, because they're not trying to eliminate the toxin substance that's creating this stuff outside your body. So they want to keep on giving you things to make your body be able to allow these so-called toxic elements or poison or venomous substance that they isolate and put them into a lot of these vaccines, right? And they want your body to be able to coexist with some shit that your body ain't supposed to have, and your body's always going to be at conflict with it. You're gonna always be at conflict with it, and that conflict is always feeling sick, always getting always getting what's the name what the fuck oh my god, always getting fevers, always getting these stomach viruses and stuff like that, because it's attacking your body. You know what I'm saying? But how it go? I don't know how the fuck I got on this right here, but yeah, man. But for, like I said, the individuals. No, I know I got on this because we was talking about the attack and the things that our people were subjected to. Now, just real quick, right? Because I'm probably gonna get out of here probably another 5 minutes, right? But I promise y'all, I promise, I will do the Alabama bill, and I will show the rest of the North. I gotta go pick my daughter up. But like I said, I'm definitely gonna be doing a bill, and I'm definitely gonna be promoting this. And while I'm promoting it, I'm definitely gonna give you guys a decent bill while I'm promoting it. But real quick, let me just touch back on what I was talking about. So the different experiments and things that these people did, if you go back, like even the syphilis experiment, right? Hold up. Even a syphilis experiment, right? Um, you go back, it's a movie called Miss Evers' Boys with Lawrence Fishburne and about the Tuskegee, I think it's the Tuskegee Airmen, right? And it's showing actually how she was actually injecting syphilis into the so-called Tuskegee Airmen, right? But you know that syphilis come from them having sex with dogs. That's where syphilis come from. Now I don't want to get into how syphilis is formed and the bacteria that sends off from, like I said, from the bacteria them having so-called, sexual what's the name with dogs. Well, like I said, a lot of that shit came because, like I said, naturally, a lot of these Slavic women we're only dealing with aboriginal men. So the offspring from that wasn't really getting no play. He wasn't getting no play at all. He wasn't hardly getting no looks or no numbers or no. He wasn't getting no attention. So therefore, you start seeing bestiality come from that. That's where bestiality came from. Niggas who wasn't really these motherfuckers who wasn't getting attention from these Slavic women. But that's a whole nother story. But all the shit we done been through, all these science, these experiments, you know what I'm saying, from the Jim Crow era all the way up until now, because even that so-called jab that these people took, right, that got all of these so-called inorganic cells, and it has how do you say nine I can't think of the name, how they say it or whatever, right? But even these so-called jabs that niggas is taking, these are continuous experiments. First experiments was something that was just projected to our people. Now the experiments is projected to everybody that come here and want to be a United States citizen. So now all of these people are being experimented on. You understand what's in? They all being experimented on, right? And even I say this too, right? Even with the whole Epstein thing, right? If you guys seen where they was talking about Bill Gates, they was talking about how him and Epstein was seeing how they can manufacture vaccines to where that they can get rich off of it. This was before we done heard this nigga and all of this shit that we done heard BG talks about. The we have to lower the population and the TED talks and all this other stuff. We done heard this man say that nigga like what the fuck is he saying? Like, nah, nigga, I know what I just heard. But they've been talking about this shit. They've been talking about all this shit. So it's like, nah, nigga, the stuff that we've been through that pretty much fucked with our psyche for years, right? Fuck with our psyche. Even the story of being told that you was a slave. That's a horrific story because they created a storyline for what happened to them people. And as long as you see yourself in that story, you're going to always be traumatized by it. You go back and look at Roots and what happened to Kizzy and what happened to all these people, you know what I'm saying, and how they was being treated. My niggas separated from their family. Yeah, even if you believe that shit wasn't true, right? But the ones who believe it to be true are permanently traumatized from it. And that trauma comes out in so many different ways. Hate for their own people, hate for their own selves, hate for their own family members, hate for other people because they never found the way to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, man, peace to the gods, peace to the goddesses, man. The bill will be before 1492. America was a Negro continent. Okay, that will be on Sunday, February 22nd at 4 p.m. Tickets are $25. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. You guys, well, actually, I got the flyer on my actual on my what's the name site on my channel or whatever. So I got the flyer on there. So all you gotta do is go to my what's the name part of the YouTube channel. Let me see something real quick because I'm losing my train of thought. Let me see. On my post, if you go to my post, you'll see it. You'll see everything in the description and everything. My email. I'm gonna actually put my Cash App information in the description of this bill or whatever, and I'll probably be back. What's today? Tuesday. I'll be back Thursday to give you guys the rest of the old world, Mobile, Alabama, and then I'll probably be back Saturday to promote the live stream some more and do another bill. So definitely, man, shout out to everybody, man, for coming through. Definitely support the bill, man, because like I said, I put a lot into this bill, and this shit is gonna be. I ain't gonna say this shit is gonna be a goddamn infernal. Fuck fire. This shit is gonna be an infernal. This shit has a lot of information and a lot of information and a lot of it's definitely gonna be entertaining, definitely. So definitely support it, man. Support it, come through. And like I said, with that being said, it's your brother Ahanu Kiel, aka A1, aka Conscious One. Hit that like button, try to share out the bill so we can at least, attract even some of these FBAs like how AP be doing. Some of these brothers who don't understand, who still think they were slaves and still are under because some of the FBAs is under some of the Pan African regiment, because the Pan African what's the name is dealing with slavery. Is dealing with slavery, and like I said, I don't believe none of us was ever slaves, and I know that's a bold statement to make, but I don't believe it because if you got a whole book here with slaves, if I had 10 people in a room and asked 10 people how much what they did, what they descended of slaves, all 10 going to raise their hand. When mathematically that is impossible. You had hundreds of thousands of people who was free before the Emancipation Process. You had hundreds of thousands of people who's living in the same towns and some of the same areas that your people live in now, who was free before 1865. You understand? Before 1865, but you think your existence as a so-called black man or Negro in America, that you give credit to someone going to a country, putting you at the bottom of a wooden ship, strapping you down, and bringing you across one of the roughest waters there ever been, and then once your feet touch land, you was able to go to work. Do you know what kind of bacteria and illnesses these people will have to be quarantined? These people have to be fucking quarantined. These people wouldn't be ready to go to fucking work, my nigga. A 4 month journey. But these niggas, oh, well, there was a current that'll take you right from Africa right into South America. And these niggas believe in this shit. Like, and they tell them niggas this shit. There's a current that brings you straight through. And this is how they was bringing you. This is how they was bringing. Man, listen, my nigga. Look, the gig is up. The gig been up. The gig been up for decades at this point in time, man. So peace to the guys, peace to the goddesses, man. Once again, it's your brother, Arnold Kiel, aka A1, man. And thanks everybody for coming through. That's right. That's right. Not free, always free. That's right. We've always been free. So with that being said, man, peace to everybody for coming through, man. I appreciate y'all. Miss y'all. And definitely, man, everybody enjoy the rest of their day. I'll see you guys back on Thursday, which I would be doing that the review or just giving you some content even on the one in Alabama. So peace of gods, man. With that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.